On the hunt, working around the clock.
We have a saber-toothed tiger skull, and we have a dinosaur egg.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers make a bizarre find.
This is probably a sale, like a black market sale or something to that effect. More than likely, that's what's going on.
But how often do you see items like those?
But something like this is pretty rare for us.
WDRB was embedded with Customs here in northern Kentucky at the port of Cincinnati, about 100 miles northeast of Louisville. Smugglers go to great lengths trying to fool the feds, but officers make a lot of finds using intelligence and experience.
Bird's nest, prohibited entry. Obviously, you think of like avian influenza, other diseases.
Anything that shouldn't be brought into the United States.
Officers like Sean Fay from Louisville go through dozens of packages.
Anything that can be used, terrorist activities, criminal activities.
In February, we showed you drugs getting into the U.S. through places like the Arizona-Mexico border. But with borders essentially closed because of COVID-19, CBP says dealers are trying to use unknowing commercial carriers to get their illegal goods into the U.S.
That's liquid meth from here all the way down to here.
This is an air compressor for an air conditioner flagged down by Customs, seen here on the X-ray. They took it apart and drilled into it.
In this container here, I would say you have at least 2 keys of liquid meth on the inside.
Officers say they will seal this back up and it'll be sent on to the destination to try and catch the criminals on the receiving end.
Port of Cincinnati is definitely one of the ports leading the country as far as narcotic seizures.
A drug dog sniffs the packages on the conveyor belt of shipments and targets this package.
This shows drugs on the inside of it. These are actual lights, ceiling lights.
They like to play games, so this has actually got oil on the inside of it, or transmission fluid. So underneath that, there you can see green leafy material.
Officers say this will be tested, but is most likely marijuana. And finding drugs happens every day. In the last year, this port seized more than 2 tons of narcotics.
We suspect that they are opium poppy pods. They cut the sides of the pod, the sap oozes out, and they collect that to make opium and heroin.
Agents also find a big bag of white powder. In this lab, a high-tech device helps detect what's inside without opening it. Turns out this is full of the active ingredient in Viagra.
But you're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 10,000 doses out of this one shipment.
There are so many packages. You talked about it being like a needle in a haystack. What percentage is actually looked at more closely?
Well, we try to do 100% screening on everything from a radiation standpoint.
These made to look like carpets, rolled up carpets coming in. But if you get into the carpet and take a look, you have packaged fresh khat, smuggled.
Khat is a plant native to Africa, and locals chew it to give them a high. CBP says its officers in Louisville seized over 10,000 pounds of narcotics being shipped through the port of Louisville from October 2019 to September 2020, with the majority at UPS Worldport. And it's not just drugs.
And actually, it's a firearm suppressor that screws on the end of a barrel.
Agents also found 63 guns and firearm parts in that time. UPS released this statement. While we cooperate with law enforcement in Louisville and around the world to ensure our services are not misused, we don't talk about those efforts because doing so would compromise their effectiveness.
These Louis Vuitton bags, again, more purses. We see a ton of purses.
These are packaged. They look like they're the real hairdryer.
They're good at what they do.
Much of this coming from countries including China and Vietnam.
This box is full of what looks like replica AirPods, but when you look inside, you see the Apple logo, and this is also fake. And what tipped you off to these ones?
Just based on previous seizures that we've had, encounters that we've had with similar merchandise.
CBP says it's not just companies losing money. There's a darker side to the counterfeit trade.
In the bigger picture for counterfeit goods, what are some of the ties to child labor and even terrorism?
Absolutely. There have been a lot of articles written on possible ties to terrorism as far as raising money, funding various terrorist cells or operations around the world. tied directly to counterfeit merchandise.
CBP says these fake finds can also be unsafe. Over the last year, Louisville officers seized over $109 million in counterfeits. Customs says there's an appeals process once items are confiscated, and items can later be destroyed. And with holiday shopping in full swing, it's easy to get fooled online, with fakes priced just under what a real item sells for.
Anyone that is sourcing from overseas, counterfeiting is an issue for them as well as for us.
So, as you shop for gifts this season, buyer beware.
We protect what people don't know about.